I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. The Special Master Judge Raymond Deary in the Mar-A-Lago search warrant case just admonished the Donald Trump lawyers in a scathing minute order stating that they have missed their deadline to submit any of their disputes regarding a certain category of documents referred to as the Exhibit A privilege filter documents. We've previously reported on what these documents are. The Department of Justice timely made their submission, and the Department of Justice did a nice log that they put in their letter brief submitted on October 20th to Judge Raymond Deary, where they set forth why Donald Trump's claims that these documents, this small group of documents that the privilege team obtained on August 8th before the case team that was investigating the crimes came in. We're talking about 15 documents, maybe 9 documents that are actually in dispute, that these documents belong back with the case team is what the Department of Justice explained. And the Department of Justice showed that Donald Trump and his lawyers were making these frivolous arguments, claiming that documents were both executive privilege and personal records as well. And as the Department of Justice points out, how can a document be both a personal record and executive privilege? It's internally an inconsistent concept to begin with, that a document can be designated as being within like the scope of confidential presidential communications, but also be deemed personal. And then the Department of Justice also pointed out in their letter brief that they submitted on time that Donald Trump was claiming documents like clemency grants and immigration initiatives, things that would clearly be government records, that Donald Trump was claiming those as personal records. And so the Department of Justice submitted, I think it was a 3 to 5 page letter that just laid it out, showed the log, showed what the disputes were. They did their homework. They did it on time. They met the deadline. And then after the Department of Justice submitted their letter brief on October 20th, Donald Trump's letter submitted a letter brief where they basically said, Dear Judge Deary, as noted in the defendant's October 20th, 2020 submission, the defendant in this case is the Department of Justice because Donald Trump sued them before Judge Eileen Cannon that initiated this whole process. As noted in the defendant's October 20th, 2022 submission, the parties met and conferred regarding the Filter A documents on October 19th, 2022. Up until receipt of the defendant's October 20th, 22 filing, that's the filing I just talked about that the Department of Justice filed on time, we anticipated that there would be a joint submission and an exchange between the parties preceding that joint submission to confirm both the parties' submissions. This is consistent with the process that was undertaken for the October 3rd, 2020 joint submission with the filter team. Instead, the government filed its own log and presented its legal positions on the documents for which there is a dispute between the parties. Again, they're just whining in the letter, Donald Trump's lawyers. Instead, the government filed its own log. Why'd they file? They should have waited for us. Well, why didn't you contact them? Why didn't you send them a shell, a blank document that has a log, to get their positions? Why don't you take the initiative and do the work? They're supposed to do all of the work for you and make your deadlines for you. Then Trump's lawyers say, unfortunately, the log submitted by the government is not fully accurate as to the plaintiff's position on various documents. In light of these facts, the plaintiff, Donald Trump, will file our position on the documents that remain in dispute by the close of business on October 24th, 2022. Signed, James Trusty. Big no-no in front of Judge Raymond Deary, the special master. By the way, Judge Raymond Deary, who's the special master on this case, was also the former chief judge of the Eastern District of New York. He's a no-nonsense federal judge. He presided over mafia cases. I mean, he's known as a real law and order judge. And if you know Judge Raymond Deary, you don't miss deadlines, and you don't tell any federal judge, maybe other than Judge Eileen Cannon in Trump's world, but you don't tell a federal judge, especially Judge Raymond Deary, just saying, yeah, we're going to file it on the close of business October 24th, 2022. We're picking a day. We're going to file it on October 24th when the deadline is October 20th, 2022. So what did Judge Raymond Deary did? Almost instantly, he gave a written order, a paperless order on the electronic filing system. And this is what the order was for Judge Raymond Deary. Order. The special master notes plaintiff's counsel's letter of October 20th, 2022. To the extent plaintiff asserts that the government's letter of the same date, quote, is not fully accurate as to plaintiff's position on various documents, any submission by plaintiff, Trump, to the contrary is now untimely pursuant to my order of October 7th, 2022, which required the parties to submit their final log of positions regarding certain filter materials by October 20th, 2022. Plaintiff, Trump, may submit his position no later than the close of business today, October 21, 2022, signed by the special master, Judge Raymond Deary. He said, I'm not giving you until October 24th. You don't get to make up deadlines. You're already late. You already missed the deadline. You're going to submit it to me today, whatever your disputes are. And just so you know the obstruction and delay tactics that Trump is engaged in, again, we're talking about 15 documents or so. So remember the universe of documents that we're dealing with here. Department of Justice executes a search warrant. The magistrate judge, Judge Reinhart, had found probable cause. On August 8th, you have FBI agents who go into Mar-A-Lago. The first team that goes into Mar-A-Lago is the privilege filter team. They go in before the case team, a separate team that investigates the crime. Privilege filter team goes in, finds these documents that could potentially be privileged with the broadest definition of privilege, and they take and remove those documents away, and they put them as this Exhibit A documents. The next team goes in, and that's where you have these 11,000 other documents, which are about 103 other classified records, top secret, sensitive, compartmented records. Recall, the 11th Circuit has returned the 100 classified records to the Department of Justice and overruled Judge Eileen Cannon. The 11,000 other documents have been uploaded by an electronic discovery vendor, and that is what Judge Raymond Deary is tasked with ruling on, provided that this overall process that Judge Eileen Cannon started does not get overruled by the 11th Circuit on their expedited appeal, where briefing concludes November 17th. So what we're dealing with now is actually not those 11,000 documents. What this order from October 2nd or 3rd was, and what the deadline by October 20th was to just deal quickly with this small group of literally like 15 or 20 of these Exhibit A filter privilege documents, which the Department of Justice says these documents actually aren't privileged. We removed them in the abundance of caution. But stuff like clemency grants and pardon requests and immigration initiatives, these are things that are government records that should be returned and should go back to the case team investigating the crime. They don't belong to Trump, but in the abundance of caution, we've segregated these records. And Judge Raymond Deary's like, all right, give me your position on this small group of documents. By October 20th, Judge Raymond Deary held a telephonic conference earlier in the week on Tuesday. And in the telephonic conference by Judge Raymond Deary, he basically said to Trump's lawyers, where's the beef? What are you doing? What privilege claims are you possibly making? Just because you say they're privileged and personal doesn't make it so. Enough is enough. I don't want games in my court. And what do Trump lawyers do? They deliver more games in court by sending this letter saying, oh, we're just going to respond to you by October 24th or whenever the heck we want to respond to you by. And Judge Raymond Deary was like, no, you're responding on the date of the deadline. But this also shows you what Trump was going to try to do with this overall process before Judge Raymond Deary, which he is not having any of, which is, if you see what Trump's doing with these 15 documents, claiming that they're privileged and executive privilege and personal records and things like clemency grants and immigration initiatives, claiming those are personal records when they're clearly government records, and then claiming executive privilege. of these documents over the executive branch. Remember, the Department of Justice is the executive branch. The Department of Justice told Judge Raymond Deary in their letter, you can't stop the executive branch from having our own records back. They belong to us. A former president can't assert executive privilege over the current president. It's like the most basic legal concept in the world, which Judge Raymond Deary gets. And what you see here by Judge Raymond Deary now is he's asserting control over his courtroom, exactly the opposite of what Judge Eileen Cannon did. He's saying, I'm not some clown judge. I'm not, I take my court seriously. My deadlines matter. File the things on time. Follow my rules. And I'm not having nonsense in this court. He admonished Trump's lawyers on Tuesday in the telephonic conference, admonished him again, Trump's lawyers again, in this order. We'll see what Trump responds with. The deadline is later today, so we'll see what Trump's lawyers respond to or what their arguments can possibly be. But Judge Raymond Deary is not having this at all. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hey, hit the subscribe button right now. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. Additionally, if you want to help us out and grow this independent media channel, here's what you can do. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We're not funded by anyone, yet alone millionaires or billionaires like our competition, the both sides media, the fascist media that has $1 billion in funding. We're purely powered by you. And so if you want to help, and I always get asked by you, what can you do to help grow this? That's what would really, really help. So if you have the time now, please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, MeidasTouch. Join one of those membership tiers. There's a number of incredible exclusive benefits you can get there. Some real great stuff, but most importantly as well, help grow this independent platform, this independent community. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.